That's what that reminds me of too. Oh, yeah. Yes, I know.
You would view it as interesting stuff. And go and tell you like
They always do something from the task.
the word or something better. The word.
Only one in the entire world.
Oh, wow.
Page 29. She's the only one with task there. Yeah, I thought that was kind of clever. I will call this regular council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Andy, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment, please. Tonight's meeting will be in honor, the prayer in the meeting will be in honor of Andy's mom, Jane Lynn Walther, former councilman of Gahanna. Heavenly Father, we thank you for our friendly weather reminder of having 4 seasons in 2 weeks. And we thank you for throughout our trying weather period there were no serious injuries or mishaps. And Lord, our thoughts turn to the recent passing of the police officer and the critical wounding of another in the Cincinnati area. And Lord, we ask that you comfort and bring peace to those families. And finally, Lord, we ask for wisdom and guidance as we steer our small city in the right direction, your direction. We ask for all of this tonight in your holy name. Amen. Amen. Kathy, roll please.
Carter.
Here.
Walter.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Picken.
Here.
Lee.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum present, and filling in for Mr. Zetz tonight is Mr. David Mosier, who's a frequent, we'd like to see you a little more often, so.
I'll work on it.
Can you work on that? Okay, very good, sir. Thank you for showing up tonight.
Thank you.
Citizens' comments, and we'll start out, first of all, are there any citizen comments? I don't see any. But a special guest tonight, Mr. Vince Crawford from Waste Management. Sir, you have the floor. I'll need a name and an address, please.
Okay, Vince Crawford with Waste Management. My address is 12340 Auburn Road, that's in Chardon, Ohio. So I'm the public sector representative for the company. So what that means in my position, it's somewhat of a sales position, but I strictly deal with municipalities and government entities where we're doing residential collection service. I take care of all the bidding work, and then I also interface essentially with the administrations and our operations team. We have operations managers that are out there in the field. They're the guys that run the trucks, run the routes, make sure that the collection piece is happening. I'm the interface between the council and our operations team throughout the territories that I cover, the Toledo market, Northeast Ohio, Cleveland market, and this central eastern market of Newark. That Waste Management is in. I've been with the company for 18 years now, and in the public sector realm for the last 6. So I just like to try to get out to each council that the communities that we service at least once a year, just so I can give you a little update about our company, where we're at, maybe what's going on, industry trends, and then obviously take questions from council. If I can't answer them specifically, I'll get those answers back to Mr. King and get those back to you promptly. But quickly, I just wanted to go through, what's going on with Waste Management. Yesterday was a big day for us. I'm not sure if you guys were aware, there was this game on called the Super Bowl. I don't know if it was that spectacular, but there was another event, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And we've been a sponsor of that golf event for quite a few years. And I really wasn't even aware of it. I mean, I knew we were sponsored, but I didn't watch it. I'm not really a golfer. I play like 2 times a year. One of my customers actually told me what a great event it is because he'd been to it, and then he said, Vince, you need to start watching it. So last year and this year, I've actually watched the event, and it really was a lot of fun. It's a good event, and It's the largest attended PGA event on tour, so it's a big deal for us to be part of that. But what's also really neat about that event is that it's a zero waste format. There's zero waste, which means we're figuring out a way to recycle all the organics, all the cardboard, the metal, nothing goes to the landfill at that event. Now, there's probably some incineration. We're taking that and turning it back into energy. I'm not exactly all sure on all of that, but it's the biggest one in the world of a sporting event that's a zero waste event. So there's a lot of effort that goes into that on our part to show our sustainability and that we want to be the leaders in that. 2018, we won some awards as a corporation, which I think are nice to point out because as being we're the representation out there on the street for the city administration because you chose us to collect the trash and the recycling in this community, and we want to show you that we're a good partner to be doing that. So we, as a corporation, we were named as one of the most admired companies on the Fortune 500 list. And our CEO, what he stated, he said, the reason that we win that award is because of our 42,000 dedicated employees who are striving to be leaders in technology to provide better customer service to our communities. So what is technology? Our industry isn't really thought of something that's high in technology. We're not Apple, we're not Google, but today's garbage truck is a lot different than yesteryear's garbage truck. And so there's a lot of bells and whistles on that, but the technology that we're striving for is what's going to allow us to reach our customer better. So if you didn't know, we have a mobile app. If you sign up to pay your bill online, you can download the mobile app, you can have your own account, you can pay your bill on your phone. You can see if there's a weather delay like we had last week on Wednesday, Thursday service areas. You would get that alert right on your phone. We're reaching out to our customers with emails, and we're also doing automated phone calls with the technology that we have. We allow online payment. We now have, obviously we have email with our customer service, but we have live chat that you can do with the customer service as well if you don't want to call them. Our trucks are equipped with not only GPS tracking so we can see where the guys have been, but it's routing software so we can see that they're following their planned route, which is the best route for them to service the community. We can monitor that every day and see where those trucks have been. We also have what's called Drive Cam. What the Drive Cam technology does, that's a safety feature that we're the only company in the industry, large companies, that has that technology. And what it allows is our drivers to be seen. There's a computer facing in and a computer facing out. Now that doesn't mean that an operations guy can get on and monitor what the driver's doing, but what happens if there's what we call an evasive action, whether the truck slams on its brakes or turns hard right or left, that video camera will then take a 15-second snapshot. And what it allows at the end of the day is when the route manager sees that is to coach that driver when he comes in. Because we can't tell if a driver is consistently following somebody too close. But if they're hitting their brakes too hard because their following distance isn't proper, we have the ability to actually see what they're doing improperly and coach them better. I've also seen this technology used where we've coached the drivers how it's worked positively. And the one that I can remember offhand is our driver was going 55 miles an hour down the freeway, the right speed, right following distance, and the car in front of them slammed on their brakes. He properly veered off to the side, it set off this camera, but it was a good teaching moment to show the guys, this is why you keep that distance, because if he'd been right on that car, he would have gone right over it. So that camera is a big investment in safety, and we utilize it in both ways, positive reinforcement and then also corrective reinforcement to show the guys, this is what you need to do to be a better professional driver in the communities that we're servicing. Our trucks are also equipped with onboard computers. So just like the UPS driver comes to your house and he's got the computer pad of what package he's delivering, our computer shows what service is at your house. Do you have recycling? Do you have a 96-gallon trash can? Do you not have a waste management trash can? And that's right on his computer board. And what that allows him to do is when he provides that service to click off on it. So we know instantaneously how far along our guys are in their route, or if a customer didn't have their trash out. But additionally, it allows customer service to send messages to the computer board on the truck, whether it's there's going to be a mattress out there for him to pick up, a large item, or if we have to go back because we missed somebody the day previously, that comes up on that computer board as well. So that technology really helps us to reach our customers better. Couple of other honors that we've had: we were named to the top 50 companies to sell for, or top 50 employer. But one of our awards that we really like to promote is that we've been named for 3 years now one of the best places for veterans to work. In 2017, 10% of our new hire workforce were veterans. We specifically work with veterans groups to try and bring them in because they have a lot of skill sets that work well in our industry, and we're a good company to work for. So we were really going after the veterans to try and bring them in for a place to work and be here for a long time. As far as the industry goes, what's new is not a lot that's super new, but what if you wouldn't mind, Mayor, passing half each way. Is recycling is still at the forefront of the industry right now. 2018, the recycling faced a lot of issues. There's a lot of stuff out in the news. I mean, if you just Google anything on recycling, you'll see the issues that the country and the world is having. And what happened in 2018 is China stopped accepting the world's recyclable materials of mixed paper and mixed plastic because there's so much contamination. It is truly polluting their country. And so that has caused a lot of ripple effects throughout the world, not just the United States. Countries like Australia, they're in worse shape than what we are. But on the coastlines, they've been affected the worst, where there are communities that are stopping their recycling programs altogether, and some communities are landfilling some of their products that they cannot recycle. So in the Midwest, we're fortunate that we've still been able to keep our recycling going. We've been able to move our product, but we're not getting paid for that product. We pay to get rid of paper. We pay to get rid of mixed plastics. We pay to get rid of glass. And then, of course, contamination. So the focus in recycling is we have to have clean recycling. And what that flyer shows you is those 6 simple items. Those are the only items that should go in the recycling bin. Anything outside of those simple items are going to end up at the landfill because they don't belong in the recycling processing system. So the focus, again, will be on clean recycling. We continue to message that, try and get the word out. I know that I've worked with Jessica on getting a new program put together. So you guys can have to put on your website or to get out to the residents so they have that information at hand. And we also find that social messaging is obviously the best way to drive that type of behavior and knowledge. So no plastic bags is a big thing when it comes to recycling. Some people put their recyclables in a plastic bag and then they put it in their recycling bin. What happens with that recycling, with that particular, that bag gets tangled in all the recycling equipment, which makes the process ineffective. So the plastic bag is essentially the worst thing that can go inside the recycling bin. And then a lot of times, unfortunately, those people's good efforts are gone to waste because as that bag comes up the conveyor belt, the first group of people that are on the line, because most of this work is done with the technology of the equipment, but there's people that they're pulling out the bad stuff. And the first thing they do is they pull that bag, that plastic bag, and they may not know what's in it, and it's going off the side into the trash. And the reason that we don't open up those bags is because it's a hazard. It's unfortunately the number one hazard we have is our people getting stuck by needles, people putting their hypodermic needles in their recycling. So we don't open up a bag, it's not worth it. So if you can send any message out as a reminder to people not to bag their recyclables, that's a good one. And then let's see, just quickly, again, working with the administration, Mr. King and I last year were just discussing how could waste management be more effective in the community, what could, as far as standouts. So we talked about the movie night, which is something we've done in a few of our other communities, that they have these movie nights. It's a popular movement. So we've been able to become a sponsor for that. We put that in our request for our budget at the end of 2018, so we could have that in 2019. So we just got the authorization to be allowed to be a movie sponsor for the community this coming summer. And then lastly, real quickly, it's just the industry trend that is happening. On the collection side is just moving to automation. There's a lot of really good things happening with automation as far as the trucks are much better. They last a lot longer. They make it obviously more efficient. But the safety factor of a person not having to hand lift up garbage cans all day long. And this is something I did when I was in college, you know, and you hand lift 12 to 15 tons of garbage every day, you're wore out. And unfortunately, people that have to do that, it's a very hard job. They get wore out and they can't continue that. So is the safety side, you know, we're not seeing the injury to the elbow or the shoulder or the back from, you know, lifting this garbage because the truck's doing the majority of the work. But what we've really seen is that we have a better employee because they like coming to work. It's still a difficult job getting up at 4:30 every morning to driving that truck, even with the automation. But we have an employee that is more satisfied and comes to work every day. And where we really saw this take place is in our Cleveland operation, moved from the old style traditional hand load service, that's how all our contracts were, and over the last few years, we've moved everything to carts. And our turnover rate went from 30%, 30% we're turning over our residential drivers. Not the other part of the workforce, just the residential drivers, because they're doing all that physical work. We dropped that down to 4%. So as a corporation, what we see right now is there is a truck driver shortage in America. Right now, the statistics are anywhere between 30 to 50,000 truck driving jobs are short in America. It's only going to get worse as the baby boomers retire. And hiring the newer, younger generation, moving to this automation, we're able to attract the best driver and keep the best driver. That's how we're going to provide the best service to our communities, because our people will be coming to work. And the communities also obviously look a lot nicer too when you move to the CART program for everybody. But that is a very strong industry trend right now as well. I know I gave you a lot of information there in a short time, as quick as I could, and I appreciate your allowing me to be here tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any quick questions for, yes, Mr. Lee?
Mr. Crawford, thanks for coming in. I'm gonna give you a little bit of grief, and I certainly don't want you to think that it's directed at you, because I think you're here to talk residential.
Right.
And I know that commercial, some of our all of our businesses are having some issues with waste management service. Not from maybe service is the wrong word, it's not from they're not there to pick up the trash. That's not the kind of issue they're having. But I'll give you one example. There's a local business that had a $60 a month increase without notice on a medium-sized container. Their contract was up in October, I believe. I'm rounding these numbers a little bit. Their contract was up in October, so they called into Waste Management in September to say, I found a better price, half price. Waste Management told them that they have to have 90 days now to cancel. So they called in a month before their service was up, and they told them if they wanted to cancel the service and they didn't give them 90 days, it was going to be like a $1,400 cancellation fee. So Waste Management didn't have a problem raising the rates without telling them, but now they're saying that we have to have 90 days for any business to cancel.
So I guess I'd have to say I'm going to have to stop you, because unfortunately that is something totally different than I'm here for.
I understand that, but what I'm asking is could you please pass that on to whoever that, I understand you're here for residential, but you're Waste Management.
Right, so now I'm going to answer your question, the fact that it's just, that's a different avenue of what I deal with as far as the side of the company. I do know that it's just, there's a contract, right? And so the contract spells out the time frame of which the time they have to call that in. I can't, I don't know that I can provide you an answer that you're going to be happy with in that scenario, because I'm not the person dealing with that, and I can't change our standard corporate contract. It states right in there that it's 90 days. That I know for a fact. It's
I'm not asking
something
you to
anybody's made
change
up.
anything, I'm just letting you know that it's an issue. And I'm asking that I realize that you're residential, but could you pass that on to your commercial division or whatever?
Well, I would be happy to. I guess maybe that's what if you could provide all the information of that account to Mr. King, then I can have the right sales rep work with that account as best as he can.
Yeah, I can do that if the business is, I think the business has already done that. But I guess I'm not trying to give you a specific, what I'm saying is I've heard from several small businesses, and actually I'm a customer as well as a small business owner, and I would agree with them. The rates are really high for commercial, and we're talking commercial, and I do realize that commercial, you don't have to have waste management, you can shop that around. But the contracts are tricky, and the prices are high, and what I'm saying is you do a good job providing the service, but I'd like to see as a council person who represents not just the residents, but also businesses, I'm giving you feedback that that's an issue. And if you could take that back to whoever that may be, I realize that's not your department.
Right.
You ask for questions, I'm just giving you feedback.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just saying that I can't, I thought you were asking me to fix that.
No, I'm not, I'm asking just for you to pass on that it's an issue with some
Okay.
local businesses, and I've heard it from several, and that's all.
Okay.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, I'm just, you're here to represent waste management, and
No, absolutely, no, I do appreciate that, and now that I understand what you're asking me to
Yeah.
do, I can at least pass that feedback on.
And I appreciate your relationship with Jessica. You know, our residents see our guys cutting the grass, fixing the roads, plowing the roads, and they see you guys. So we get a lot of questions.
Yep.
I feel you're doing a pretty good job. And you mentioned the golf tournament. I'd love to see waste management, and if you could point me in the right direction. I mean, I'm glad that you're helping with our movie nights, but I've introduced and asked many years for other opportunities. We have fireworks, we have our street fair, we have a antique tractor show. We'd love to see waste management doing more with our community, because you know, you're out there a lot, so. Can you steer me in the right direction, somebody?
Well, that's me, I think we do fireworks now, don't we?
I don't know if you do or not,
No?
but if you wanna get that information to me, I can pass it along to the
Yeah.
mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hickman.
A couple things, I don't, the mobile app, can you use the mobile app to report problems, or is it just to track stuff?
No, yes, you can use it to send an email as well.
And then the other thing I would ask, both you and Mr. King is, essentially so I had a constituent call me and say, hey, Waste Management drove past my house. And I said, okay, let me see what I can do. And I called Mr. King, and he called you guys, and you went and picked it up, which I thought was perfect. And is that usually how we anticipate, would you rather they call Waste Management directly, or are you okay with that path of information flow?
I think the one-offs like that, you know, we certainly don't wanna become the customer service call center for waste management on stuff, but if there are those one-offs where everything else has been picked up, and if you're getting a call, certainly I would like for you not to just tell your constituent, hey, call waste management, please let us know so we can work with them to try to get the issue resolved.
Is that something the app can do? Like, can you report that on the app?
Maybe if you have the app, but I didn't, and
No, I'm not saying you general, I'm just in general, can
Yeah.
customers report, is that what you said, that,
Yes, they would report their own, like you wouldn't wanna use that to report somebody else.
right, they'd end up coming to my house and
Yeah.
saying there's nothing out there,
Yeah,
and then shoot out my porch light or something.
yeah. No, I wouldn't do that.
I have a, question. Do you have things for, teachers' tours and things like that on?
So we have a great website, it's called Recycle Often, Recycle Right. It's actually, it should be on the bottom corner of that page I handed out.
Okay,
That has curriculums on it already built for school systems. It's got classroom projects for recycling. There are there are videos of actually how the recycling plant works, so you can see how the whole flow of everything. We don't own the MRF in this area, and I around equipment my whole life. I just don't encourage that for a
well, I
place
wouldn't
for
take
school
students, I
kids.
just didn't know if you had teacher tours,
Yeah.
like teachers coming to the sites, that's what my question was.
So, if a teacher wanted to come out to our hauling site, we could definitely arrange to have that, or if they wanted to go see the landfill, we could do a tour of that with some teachers, yeah.
Cool, thank you.
They are fun, like you, I picked up trash to put myself through school, so I've been to Bedford and all that.
Yeah.
certainly an interesting education.
Yes, it is.
Any other questions? I just have a quick comment. If you could get a really nice copy of this,
Yeah,
I'd love to see, you know, like we did with some of Chris's stuff
Can it be
about
sent?
the utility department. This would be great for our,
And I know he's worked with Jess and we put stuff out about recycling before, so once we get this, and he mentioned that to me before this, if they get us a color copy,
very
we'll
good.
be able to put it out.
Great.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, sir.
Any
Thanks for
other
coming.
questions for Mr. Crawford? Okay, now's your chance. Very good. Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
have a good evening.
Thank you.
everybody.
Good drive home.
All right, introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters. Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes. On to reports. I know a million people have said it, but good job on the snow removal. I don't have to say that anymore. You'll see the latest magazine on your desk from our Explore Licking County. And Jude Hampshire is our rep, and you've seen her before with giving us her pictures, so she continues to do a good job. And if you look at, I think it's page 29, you'll see that there's only one Pataskala in the world. That's our ad this time. So indeed, there's just one Pataskala. So hope you enjoy that. If you need some of those books for your business or whatever, give me a holler. I've got a whole bunch of them to hand out. Got a ribbon cutting coming up. If you guys are interested, on February 22nd, 10 a.m. up at the Kroger supermarket area there, the Boost Mobile. They're a member of Chamber, and they're gonna do a kind of a re-grand opening, so let me know if you wanna attend that. State of the City reminder for everybody. I know a couple of them have trickled in. Like to see a hard copy of just some facts and figures and details, so I can start working on the State of the City address. Happy belated birthday to Mr. Todd Barstow. I thought there'd be a round of applause or something. I'm sorry about that.
Congratulations.
I did what I could do there.
Mrs. Hayes
job
had a
on your
fantastic,
Trip around the sun.
yes, little cartoon
Okay, very good.
of her, not of me.
I see. And just food for thought as we move forward. I was thinking about this the other day because we had the new set of flags down at Freedom Park, and we call down here Veterans Green. I don't know what we're gonna. Somebody called this one Veterans Green. Like I got confused, so people are gonna get confused. I don't know what we're gonna actually call that, if we're gonna call it anything, but it's actually a new area for our veterans to be remembered, so just food for thought. I'm not gonna ask for anything right now, I just want you to think about it. Cause I imagine that in the future, we will have some things there too, just, you know, some, maybe some Veterans Day, something going on, or Memorial Day or something, we'll have some events at that park, since it's set up for our, and be on that side of town, and good stuff. So just be thinking about that a little bit. I think that's it. Mr. Barstow, what do you got for me?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mosier, you got anything for us? Come on now.
Do not have anything.
Came all the way to Pataskala tonight.
Probably good news there.
All right. Mr. King.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a handful of items. First of all, I just want to thank Vince Crawford for coming out. I know he has a long drive home now. Vince and I are actually meeting tomorrow morning, so he's headed back down here. Because I told him I wanted to get on talking about what a renewal may look like with Waste Management. Our current contract expires September 30th. I want to get a head start on it in case we can't come to an agreement with Waste Management and we put it out. Certainly, we need to be cognizant of the impact that a change of services can have in the community as well. I'm not saying that, you know, whatever Waste Management pitches, but there is value in having a consistent service here to the residents. Last time we changed, it was not a pleasant experience. Mr. Crawford is not here this evening. He is up north in Sandusky attending the Ohio Parks and Rec Association's annual conference. up in Sandusky, and he is actually volunteering some of his time at the conference to save 40% on his registration fees. So he continues his efforts up there to save money and look for deals. Also with Lanier, he found out a week and a half ago that he passed his State of Ohio pesticide and herbicide land applicator class, so he's gonna be able to treat fields, fertilize fields, and part-time employees working in the parks are gonna be able to do that under his direction using his license, so congratulations to him. The other thing with parks is we're putting together the cost estimates for the Foundation Park holding tank. We reached out to a local contractor actually that the utilities department uses and is pleased with their work and getting a contract for the install of that. If we need to, I anticipate bringing that to council probably in March for approval, but I don't anticipate it exceeding $10,000 for that work. So we'll keep council updated, but anticipate it's not gonna require council approval because it won't exceed that $10,000. Not the last thing, next thing I wanna mention is, we have been contacted again by representatives of TS Tech. If you know, TS Tech is out there on Broad Street. Again, contacting us about use of their access onto Taylor Road. We have remained consistent with them that the original request of using it as an emergency access is fine. We've explained that we've received multiple different ideas that they have to use that thing. Now they wanna come in and talk about expansions. We were contacted by Nate Strum, who had a meeting with Columbus 2020 about the expansions, which I thought it would have been nice to know that ahead of time. At the meeting tomorrow, it will be myself, Alan, and Scott, Nate Strum, somebody from Columbus 2020, TS Tech representatives, and now I found out late today that somebody from ODOT District 5 office is gonna be there to talk about improvements to Taylor and Broad. Not sure what the discussion's gonna be. It seems to keep evolving. I'm a little disappointed in how it has played out with this, but they're gonna come in, pitch using that access as full access and doing an expansion on their property. There are gonna be no commitments made. Certainly, we're gonna lay out processes of coming to development committee, street committee, everything with this, because that could be a significant traffic impact on coming out onto Taylor Road. And last thing I have is that when we get to it, I do request that we table resolution 2019-015. That is for our annual IT and tech support. There's moving parts on it with numbers that I'm just not comfortable with. The gentleman, the president of the company, is out of the country right now. Will be back. So I plan to work with him and get that back to council on February 19th, seeking approval for it. So do request that that is tabled this evening.
And Jenny might be able to answer this, but I have a question back on the TS Tech. So right now, TS Tech is completely not within the city, is that correct? And so if they expanded into the part that was in the city, would we be able to get any payroll tax?
Yes.
If they were, have people working in there?
If they're working in a facility that's located within the Pasco boundaries, yes, we would, our 1% income tax would apply to them. We're not sure what type of employment they're talking or anything about an expansion, so.
So it could just be some sort of
Guard check.
storage area that one guy goes to once a
Could be.
month? Okay. I thought we could, but I just wanted to see how we could do that. Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
On the topic of TS Tech, it's a good thing I'm not gonna be at the meeting. Just tell them that, I certainly, as a council person and somebody who's been in those talks for the past couple of years about them using, that roadway to circumvent traffic lights and improper intersections. Don't appreciate them going around the way and coming back through Nate Strum. And additionally, I don't think residents along that area, including myself, would appreciate them wanting to use Taylor Road as a secondary exit, because next thing you know, they're gonna want to use it as an entrance, and the road is not designed to support that. So I'm not pleased at all with the route that took.
We will
Okay.
certainly carry that message and also emphasize the discussions the street committee has had on this on multiple occasions over the last couple of years.
You know, even before they bought that property, we told them, you know, you're not gonna be able to use this, it's a residential area, so, and then they went ahead and bought it, made the everything's been around the back of the barn, that's for sure.
Certainly has been.
Mr. Hicken?
I guess I'm even more confused about ODOT saying they're doing work on Taylor and
No, they're not saying they're doing work, they're coming to talk about potentially
improving the intersection.
improving the area of Taylor and Broad through money available through jobs and commerce that would be attached to TS Tech's expansion, is the way it was
All right.
explained to me. No idea how much money we're talking, no idea timeframes, matching money, don't know anything about that. It's,
I look forward to your report.
I am certainly disappointed as well, and I'll leave it at that.
Anything else for Mr. King? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Nicholson?
Thank you, Mayor. Supplemental on the agenda tonight, we are amending, actually there was we caught an error in the section 2, so I believe you should have a updated copy at Rashida Tadeas, correct?
Yes, we have it.
Okay. Just want to make sure you guys all have that.
Yep.
The section 3 is really a minor thing. It's Lanier got a donation for dugout concrete base for the benches and the dugouts, but in order to spend the money, we need an appropriation. So it's just housekeeping so we can spend the donation. We are making progress on our year-end reporting, continuing to work towards getting all that done rather quickly. The other item we're starting to work on is an RFP for cleaning services for facilities. Now that the police station will be coming online here fairly shortly, we need to get cleaning services lined up, so we're going to combine this facility in with the police station and go out for an RFP here shortly. So, stay tuned.
Anything else, sir?
That's all I have.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Jamie, where do we stand with the insurance? Did we finalize, I don't remember if we finalized
The property casualty
Yeah,
liability,
yeah.
yeah, it was approved and,
I'm sorry, I didn't remember.
no, it's all good. We got we made our payment and we're good to go.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't remember.
Mr. Barstow?
Any update on
The other insurance?
the fund
Rent
insurance?
out claims.
No. Any update? Okay, just curious.
No, that's where I thought Mr. Hicken was headed with that, with that insurance.
Anything else for Mr. Nicholson? I'm just gonna backpedal real quick. Thank you for Lanier's report, but, for filling in what he had. And, I know if he was here tonight, he would wanna plug, tomorrow, his creative wellness, day and night is at the Summit Station Lions Club. Yoga, all kinds of cool stuff, starting at 11 in the morning and going till 6 tomorrow night. So just wanted to pass that out there. If you got your card in the mail, you obviously have all of his events on record, but I wanted to mention that since Lanier was not here tonight. So. Yes, yoga.
Do some yoga.
In your lunch hour, you can go down there,
That's all right.
11 to 12. A little yoga might calm you down a little bit. Chris, what do you got for us tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few things I wanted to hit. First thing I want to say is on April 11th, the southeast section of the OWEA is having a section meeting. Pataskla has volunteered to be part of the plant tours portion of that. It's going to be us, Southwest Licking, and Baltimore. It's still preliminary, but there's expected to be 50 people on the tour. They break it down to 2 groups of about 25. I'm going to head up one group, and Plant Superintendent Ryan Brown is going to head up the other group. So, pretty excited to get that going. I have an update on the well number 6. Is the well that we found a hole in the well casing back when we were doing the inspections. That has been repaired. The tests have been passed, and it is now back in service again. So, back up to full strength there. When we get to System Superintendent. The background check was cleared today for our selection, so February 19th, Mr. Trent Howe is going to report for his first day as the assistant superintendent with us, and that will have our staffing finally back to full strength, which is something I'm very excited about. There's also included the annual utility report, which is just a summary of everything the utility department did last year, just kind of a brief overview of everything. So if you had any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer anything that you have a question about in that. That brings me around to my final thing. There's a resolution tonight for an EPA loan for design of wastewater plant upgrades.
Go ahead, continue.
So basically what we have is the EPA is issuing out a discharge limit of 1 milligram per liter for phosphorus for wastewater plants that are our size. They'll issue those out based when you renew your permit. Our permit comes up in July. We're unsure what they're gonna give us in July, but the thought process is it may be either this permit cycle or definitely the next permit cycle will get a limit of 1 milligram per liter for phosphorus. Currently, we have no limit at all for phosphorus. So what we are able to do in our treatment facility, the way it is now, the influent phosphorus levels, an average of 3.88 milligrams per liter, and we discharge about 2.03. So we cut it about in half with the process we have now, but obviously that's still twice as much as what the EPA is going to want us to do. So last year, the department had Hall put together a proposal on the upgrades that we could do at our facility to try and help reach that phosphorus limit. So that brings me to the information that was put in the packet.
Yeah, and if I could, you know, I appreciate you taking it to that point. I know Mr. Hickens is gonna touch on some from committee reports. And I'd also like to keep discussion at the time of reading that resolution, so. And I know council has received information up to this point. I apologize, I just wanna make sure we're keeping it all in line. Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely good. So the information is included in there that covers the planned upgrades, and I guess that's all I have for my report right now. I'll answer any questions that
Sorry.
council has.
Anything for Chris? Okay, very good. Mr. Haynes?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing to report on tonight, and that's Resolution 2019-014. That is a resolution to basically study and retime the Broad Street corridor, signal corridor from Oak Meadow Drive down to One Healthy Place. Currently, the timing is pretty well off efficiency of travel through there. It's difficult to make it through very efficiently. So with this project, we would have traffic counts and do an optimization and an install. This was planned in the 2019 budget. This is within that planned budget, and like I said, it should increase efficiency through that corridor. Aside from that, happy to answer any questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Main Street status?
I should have mentioned that, I had it on my list. Met with AEP up at their facility in Gahanna this morning, and just again emphasize the importance of getting this done. We talked about the Joneses, and I once again emphasize the importance of going different routes for the Joneses. Their concerns, they started talking about how narrow Wood Street is and if they can serve from the back. I told them they need to figure out a way to serve the Joneses from the back. They are going to be did request from them a weekly update. On Thursdays, I will be getting an email from Brandy of the progress they have made on this project, and I said I'm gonna continue to pound on them until we get it completed.
Is that the one?
We're Wharton and Joneses, but Wharton's getting close. I mean, Wharton's not gonna be an issue, so it's gonna be the Joneses. Joneses did sign for the certified letter I sent to them, got that back today, so we do know that there's somebody there. They won't answer doors or return phone calls, so.
So what's the deadline for AEP to move forward?
Now, I mean, AEP has been given direction, need to get this wrapped up.
Good. And do we have a deadline for it to be wrapped up?
I'm hoping to have information from them on Thursday, at this Thursday's update about how they can service service the Joneses for Wood Street.
Excellent.
And at that point, I plan to say, please proceed with serving the Joneses from the back, but, everything I get from AEP on these weekly updates will be shared with all of council.
Anything else for Alan? Yes, sir.
I just want to thank the administration because I had a hard time gripping the concept that we needed to hire people to do that study. I was thinking that we just kind of went out there and tweaked a couple lights and that, see how much it backed up or whatever. And it was nice to hear that it's much more involved than that. And I appreciate you taking the time to educate me.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that. And I think the way it's being done now was the way Mr. Hicken described how it was done.
Very well be.
Based on my experience from coming home, going to
So we've got a before and after.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for Alan? Thank you, sir. Mr. Fulton?
Thank you, Mayor. The draft copy of the comprehensive plan is still online for public comment. I think the plan at this time is to allow that process to continue, us to receive feedback based upon the comprehensive plan and what we heard at the public meeting, then call a meeting with the steering committee to go over the feedback that we had received. These steering committee meetings moving forward would be facilitated by me and Jack Kunzman alone. OHM will not be involved. The plan would then be to work on getting the plan based upon feedback, getting everyone on the steering committee comfortable. If it takes one meeting, if it takes 3 meetings, that's what we're going to do to get everybody comfortable and on the same page. What I foresee after that is then doing another public meeting, again facilitated by me. OHM will not be involved. And for that public meeting, we will put out the street signs like we did, put it on Facebook, get it on the city's webpage, and mail out postcards as well to make sure everybody is aware of the public hearing, and then that the draft plan will be available for comment. At that point, we will go back, make any necessary tweaks, and then we'll slowly move this to the process, and each step of the way, making sure that everybody in that step of the process is comfortable with the plan and how it's moving forward. And I don't want to take anything away from Mr. Powell. We did have some discussions about this at Development Committee tonight. I know Mr. Barstow has tasked Development Committee for being involved in the comprehensive plan process. So at this point, I see once steering committee being comfortable with the draft plan and all the tweaks, that our next step forward will be a Development Committee meeting with the involvement of the steering committee. Once the Development Committee is comfortable, we'll then move that on to council, and at that point, OHM will become back involved. As we move through this and tweaks and updates and edits need to be made, OHM is happy to make those edits to the plan, but in terms of facilitating meetings until the public meeting before council, or their presentation before council, will just be a planning and zoning department effort to move this thing forward. Also, I wanted to remind council that we do have 2 public hearings at the February 19th meeting. The first is ordinance 2018-4331. That's a rezoning request for the proposed Hunters Crossing subdivision. The other is ordinance 2018-4332. That's a code amendment to amend the high grass and weed ordinance in the code. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Scott? Yes, sir.
Scott, thanks for giving me the comprehensive plan and getting that on the website, so we're all on one voice on that. And yeah, I just wanted to say that from my perspective, the comprehensive plan is our plan. That is, it's the city's plan. It's not a HM's plan. Okay, and I appreciate you just letting us break off from them, having them update as necessary, and getting our steering committee involved and the development committee involved, so that the citizen input can be had. I still get a lot of input from people who think that come March, bulldozers are gonna appear on the horizon and start tearing down their trees and putting bike paths and walking trails all over their properties. So we still have a long way to go to that's not going to happen, and I've explained to folks why. But yeah, this is a significant change. The things that are proposed in here are significant, and they have a significant impact on the community. So I think we need to just take a cautious approach to this and get as much steering committee input as we can. Thanks, appreciate it.
Mr. Walther?
Regarding the public meeting that we have next time with Hunters Crossing, I know there were some questions that were still out there from the P&Z meeting. Instance, Licking County and/or Etna Township's comments. Have you seen anything from them?
Yes, as part of the review, we sent that to Etna Township and Licking County. The county engineer talked about some alignment of entrance with White Feather Farms. That was, from our follow-ups with them, that was kind of a boilerplate response. The Hunters Crossing folks, to move it to the east to align, initially it would appear that they would have to impact a wetland to do so. At the last planning commission meeting, they said they were going to be able to update the plan where it would not impact the wetland, but we have not seen that yet. But there was a condition of approval that it's not, if it does get approved, that they don't have to look into it. All of our comments were required by the Planning and Zoning Commission to be addressed in one way or another. And the township did not provide written comments, but they did indicate they were not pleased with the density of the project.
Thanks.
Anything else for Scott? No current violations, anything in the downtown Old Village or anything like that?
Knock on wood, all quiet.
Okay. I heard that Depot Street Coffee House was out of chocolate chip cookies. I just wondered if anybody.
That is right. I failed to mention that the mayor's court summons will go out later.
Okay.
I will, get on the baker.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott, for playing along there. I appreciate it. Chief Brooks, what do you got?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick item. I've learned that I have 4 officers in the process at other departments, so we will be getting with the PBR to start the process to give an entry-level test. And that's it. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Bruce? Yes, sir.
How's the presentation coming along?
We're working on it. We had some advice that we shouldn't use information collected by union members, so we had to basically scrap it and start it over, but we're getting close to the end.
Say that again. So I just want to make sure I understand that completely.
We got advice from council that we shouldn't use information or data collected by union members.
Okay.
That would be advice from law direction.
Okay.
And from
From our labor council.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So how are you gonna, I'm sure there's other means of doing that, so.
No, it's the same exact process, yeah.
Alright.
Same information,
So
same
soon?
places.
Like,
Yes.
next meeting or the meeting after?
Next meeting, yes.
Okay.
That would be an executive session. Any yes, sir.
I did see that.
I just kinda wanna piggyback, I'm excited to hear that, because I think it's time for us to begin moving forward and looking at some solutions to the staffing and the pay funding. And so I'm excited to move forward in that direction.
Mrs. Carter?
How many officers did you say are looking?
4.
Are they some of our senior officers? Are you?
As senior as we have, yes.
I would just say that, that presentation should be as real. Don't worry about trying to make that sound nice.
Understood.
No, it will be. Executive session, all the cards will be on the table, because we're getting desperate. I don't wanna use the word desperate. It's getting serious is what I'd like to say. And I think we've all starting to realize that. Anything else for Bruce?
Just remind me, why do we have to do that in executive session? What?
We
We're
were
talking about, union
Salary.
members and salaries of union members.
recommended by our law director.
Okay.
Well, it's directly one of the purposes to go into executive session too.
Okay.
I mean, eventually, something would.
I'm not doubting him, I just would think that the public would like to hear that.
And they eventually will.
Right, but we
Yeah, right.
have to tread lightly when we're dealing with this right now.
Yep.
Go into negotiations at the end of this year.
Anything else? All right, committee chair reports. I'll start with Andy.
Okay, the agricultural committee met this evening, as you know, reviewed 7 different applications. No comments or concerns, as previously noted. The other thing was brought up, other issue that was brought up under other business was reviewing the discharge map in the very near future. So that'll be on the agenda here as soon as we can do that in the near future. The next meeting, we are aware of 6 more applications that are making their way through the process. And our next meeting will be March 4th, again, 6:20 to 6:40, and then public hearing directly after.
Anything for Andy? Mr. Powell, you got a committee chair report tonight?
I do. Development committee met tonight. The first thing we had, Bob Long from Vision Acquisitions came and gave kind of a pre-application review of a proposed development district at the corner of Broad and Mink, the northwest corner of Broad and Mink. they would look to change the zoning from M1 to Planned Development District. It would include, commercial, senior housing / assisted living, single-family residential condominiums, and apartments. They wanted just some feedback, how we felt about their plan. There was some discussion about what exactly the apartments would entail, because that seemed kind of be the bigger sticking point. He said it'd be longer term apartments, higher end, $1,000 a month rental and above. Just kind of trying to gauge, you know, what kind of density it would be, how many people it would bring. And there was questions about whether or not it would, how it would mesh with the draft comprehensive plan, but since it's not, nothing's been adopted yet, it's not really an issue as far as that's concerned. And there was some discussion about lot size, for the single-family houses. So these are all concerns, or not necessarily concerns, but questions and answers that they'll be able to take back and decide whether or not they want to proceed with their development. They've already taken this to kind of given the same presentation, had a question and answer session with planning and zoning. So now it's just kind of up to them to decide if they want to move along with this, and then we'll go from there. Also talked about, there's a section of the demolition regulations. Back in 2017, when we passed the demolition requirements, the length of the permit is 90 days. However, there's a section 1315.03 in the code that says that any demolition must be completed within 60 days of the order of demolition. So we have a 90-day permit, but only a 60-day window to complete the demolition. So the proposal is just to harmonize those and change that 60 days from 90 days. Mr. Walther brought up about whether or not there was any kind of provision for severely hazardous structures that needed to come down right away. And so we went ahead and recommended to planning and zoning to approve the change to the code with a provision for more hazardous buildings, to language that spoke to emergency applications. And then we had a brief discussion at the end about the comprehensive plan and how we are going to move forward with that and what that's going to look like. Mr. Fulton basically touched on most of that during his report. Again, it wouldn't come to the development committee until the steering committee was in 100% agreement about what the comprehensive plan needed to look like, and of course that would entail multiple steering committee meetings, another public input session, and then at that point it would come, after all that, it came to agreement, it would come to the development committee. And then, I don't know, we kind of talked about when it came to the committee, what our role would be in that. But we didn't really decide on anything, it's just something that we're gonna keep our eye on for the future. That's all I have.
Anything for Mike? Any other committee choice, ma'am?
We had a street committee meeting last Monday, and kind of did a quick, well, not a quick, but we tried to do an overview of everything that we've got going on. The street committee seems to be continuously a large load that we carry forward all the time. Alan touched on Oak Meadow Drive, and I'm just going to briefly recap, so if you have questions, you can get from more detail from him, but just so you guys kind of know what we talked about. Oak Meadow, the construction schedule, we hit on that, hoping to be done by the street fair, but if it's not, the firm understanding that they need to be out of the way for the street fair. The same kind of goes for the safe travel plan with the intersection at, is that one Main or 310? I always get confused. Is it 310?
Broad and 310.
Broad and 310. for the crosswalks and such. So both of those were hit. We talked about the Oak Meadow, the budget and things that have been added and how far we've come with that. And I did ask Alan to provide an overview of the budget and everything that we're doing, and kind of just a high-level breakdown, so we could reference that as we move forward. So that'll be coming down the line. Went over the ramp, the various streets that we're gonna be hitting on it, talks about contingency plans with any overflow money or savings that we might come across. So we also talked about the traffic signal timing, which we were all quite excited about. So, which everybody else seems to be excited about as well. So that's coming down the pipes. We also talked about a safety and capacity analysis. An asset management plan, as he so nicely puts it. But basically, having a consultant do a study of our intersections, determine which intersections are the most in need of work, most traveled, most dangerous, and so I'm really anxious to see that study so we can start putting that stuff in our CIP, moving forward, looking for funding, and really starting to address some of our traffic issues and safety issues in various parts of town. Taylor Road Path, they have put up some sidewalk closed signs on there. They've cleaned up some of the debris along there. So I've tried to put the word out with people that I know that, you know, that ODOT's project, we're pushing them to clean stuff up, but until the weather clears and they have some movement, it's gonna be a minute. So to try to push for patience, which is a struggle. Another high-level review of all of our drainage projects, which we've done a pretty good job with. The minor ones have been all cleared up a great deal. We still have major ones, but it seems like we have now a couple of different large items that we're carrying plans for, you know, with priority. Drainage, streets, now we're gonna be talking intersections, so really trying to keep track of all of those things to make sure that we continue to address and not lose track of some of the stuff that's going on. That also includes the bridges in town. And we talked about culverts that we've been working on. So there's a number of those things that kind of continue to pop up and land in this particular venue. So a challenge to keep those meetings at an hour. And then we talked about the budget carryover and the surplus, and again, contingency plans where we can use that money, should it come around. It looks like we have a great deal of surplus, but the reality is, the way we budgeted for Oak Meadow, we have the carryover from last year, what we also budgeted for this year, so that leaves quite a bit there, but that also provides us the opportunity to really try to get some stuff done this year. So bids are going out, will be going out, but we're moving forward in a time frame that hopefully we stay on track and we can get quite a bit accomplished, so. And any questions you can ask Alan.
All right, thank you, Melissa and Alan. Any other yes, utilities?
You can tell it's the beginning of the year because of the long line of committee reports. I'm gonna ask Chris to go ahead and jump in on here at any time as well. I always do the other members of the utility committee, as I give this update. If you hear me miss something, I usually capture most of it, but if you wanna jump in, please feel free. On the 31st, we had a utilities committee meeting. I'll go through the easy stuff first. We all got to see the annual utility department report, which was also forwarded to all of council. It's got some, for me, it's got some interesting stuff in it, so if you get a chance, take a gander at it. We began the early discussions of evaluating our rates and their structures, and exactly how our different rates, to remind everybody, we have 4 different funds, and they are all on a slope of some kind as to how far out they're going to be viable, and begin the process of, and that was planned for this year. We knew that we were at least gonna have to look at it, to see if we need to begin to make any adjustments to it. More of that discussion will take place later in the year, but soon, but later in the year. With that said, we then went on to, we talked about the water reclamation facility upgrade. That's on tonight's agenda. I feel bad that it's somewhat sprung on council, so I wanna try to hit this as much as we possibly can. Chris started to touch on it. It looks like that the EPA is gonna be putting a phosphorus limit on us. And we have some different options. If council will remember, and this question was asked of Chris, one of Nathan's plans was to put the press in and see how much the press would affect the phosphorus. I think the powers that be got together and didn't think it would affect it a lot. However, in the meantime, the possibility came to us of applying for and receiving a no-interest loan. The city had budgeted $500,000 this year and $500,000 next year to deal with plant upgrade issues, not just the phosphorus, but plant upgrade issues. After Chris gave a really good presentation as to part of the problem that he thinks, as it relates to the phosphorus, getting rid of the phosphorus, is the dissolved oxygen, and some of it has to do with the design of the plant itself. And he took us through varying a couple of different places in the process of treating the wastewater that we fall short. And this no-interest loan, it will help the city address many of those issues, not just the phosphorus issue. However, because we are addressing phosphorus with it, that is what allows the EPA to let us apply for it and receive it. That's it. That's a very thumbnail sketch. Well, I'm sure we'll have more discussion, or maybe we'll have more discussion later when the thing comes up. The committee stopped short of recommending it because we had a series of questions. And those questions, the answers to those questions are on the desks of council tonight. How long after the loan awarded does construction need to be done? How long is the project expected to take? Cost estimate, is there a line that said, in what Chris presented to us, there was an interest portion of it. And in the end, it turns out that there is no interest. So it was just a typographical mistake. How will the water treatment plant operate while construction's going on? And then finally, if we decided to take the loan, knowing that we had $500,000 allocated this year and next year, and we would be paying that off in lower dollar amounts if you extended it over 5 or 10 years, how does that affect the funds? And it kind of goes back to the rate discussion and the health of those funds, the sewer and the water funds. And so I want to really give a shout out to the administration, both the finance director, the administrator, and the utilities department for getting the answers quick, and also for getting us the charts that are in here, so that council can look at these and make an informed decision tonight. I thought it was a good discussion. Lots of good questions were asked, I think, by everybody that was there. Chris, have I missed anything?
No, that's a pretty good summary of everything.
So, that's on tonight's agenda. I expect that you may feel perfectly comfortable as a council person and saying, this has solved it for me, or I think we're all certainly willing to answer any questions, especially the experts, not just the council person. So, Mr. King?
Yeah, Tim, I just want to jump in. Tonight, we're not asking for approval to apply for the whole 1.493.
That's correct. Tonight
It's
is
just a portion for the design of the construction.
portion for the design, and I would also point out that since we're telling the administration to apply for that, right, there is a secondary part to it.
Right.
And that secondary part is also available to us. The total amount available to us for the entire project is 1.4 million.
That's right.
And that's as designated by the EPA. So we can't ask for 2 million, and we also can't ask for 2 million and stick it in the bank and not do anything for 4 years, or something like that, so. But if we were to pass tonight's part on the design phase, council should expect that we may be coming back to ask for the next bite of the apple, is that the right way to put it?
Absolutely.
So, that's a good point, thank you.
Mr. Walton?
Tim, if you don't mind, can I add a couple things about the
Absolutely.
meeting? We also talked about, I think it was very clear, to me at least, that this is a phosphorus issue, but it's also an operational issue at the plant. And one thing that we did go through was some alternate ways to handle the phosphorus that would be dramatically less expensive. May not even include, I think it's fair to say, may or may not include getting a loan from the Ohio EPA. One of those was handling it with chemical treatment only. And that chemical treatment only was an initial cost of $80,000 upfront, which is also in the proposed plan as you have it now with the plant upgrade. But it's a $40,000, correct me if I'm wrong, $40,000 plus or minus per year, and that just goes on for however long we would have to use it. So obviously, just doing the quick math, and it's about 34 years, I think is what I remember, that we could buy chemicals for versus a $1.5 million, $1.4 million upgrade to the plant. Again, it was clear that there are problems with the plant. The plant, it needs a splitter box, it needs some other things, but as far as the phosphorus issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, I think we were clear that as far as the phosphorus goes, it could be handled in an alternate way.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think, I anticipated some of that comment to come out in the actual resolution part when we get to the discussion, but that's a good point. So there's not only one solution. And since the committee did not recommend any path, I think it's worthwhile when we get to that area in the thing, we can talk about that, and anybody can, questions can be asked, but that's a good point. So.
Okay, any other questions? Any other committee chair reports? On to unfinished business, ordinance 2019-4333 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs.
Second.
Carter, seconded by Mr. Barstow. Kathy, when you're ready, second reading.
Ordinance 2019-4333. This is the second reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019.
Discussion. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move we amend ordinance 2019-4333 by substitution.
Got a motion to
Second.
amend, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion and roll.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Motion passes. Any other discussion on this ordinance? Yes, sir.
Just wanted to ask a quick question about the $20,000 facility or workout equipment. BJ, do you remember offhand what was in the original budget for workout facility, workout equipment?
There was nothing for.
Okay, so when you say, the only reason why I'm asking, it caught my eye that we are requesting an increase of 20,000. I
To
guess
the not to the construction budget, to the police budget, police fund.
The police operating budget.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, it's an increase to the police fund, not the construction budget.
Okay, and then if I could, this is gonna be a different item. As far as the budget goes for the police, can we get that? I know I'd asked for it a little
Yes.
while ago. If we could get to see the pluses and minuses on that, I'd really appreciate it. That's all I get.
Okay. Anything else? All right, on a new business, resolution 2019-013, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to apply for, accept, and enter into a water pollution control loan fund, WPCLF, agreement on behalf of the city of Pataskala for planning, design, and/or construction of wastewater facilities and designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Powell. Okay, we'll open it up for discussion.
Sure.
And we'll start with, I think we'll start with Mr. Hickens, is that okay?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I wanted to mention, you just heard me talk a lot about this. Usually, we don't try to move quite this fast on something that is obviously a fairly technical issue. However, one of the reasons that we felt that it was necessary to get this moving is because of the amount of time it's gonna take us to get the money, get the approval from EPA, give them what we think it's gonna be, and then show them the designs and get the comments back. And I think I think the administration was concerned that it may end up lapsing, or we might make a mistake or get caught overanalyzing or something, and then we end up getting to the point where we can't get it, or we can't get part of it. And so I don't want usually we don't come quite that fast and just send out information like this to be digested. Usually the utility committee would take a little bit more time, but this was a little more time sensitive, and it will, by most EPA people, the program will not be offered next year. It wasn't supposed to be offered this year. They extended it for 1 year. So with that said, we can go round robin and answer.
So I know Nathan had brought this to us and we were discussing it.
Well, Nathan had talked about upgrading the plant. He did not know about the opportunity to get the loan.
Okay.
That's new.
But we were addressing a phosphorus issue
Yes,
because
that
we
was
knew, I'd always heard that eventually EPA was gonna, say, hey, you need to be doing this, right?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
Nate thought that the 0% loan would be expired last December, and then they extended another year, so he wouldn't be ready for last year, so it wasn't an option he thought was gonna be viable to him.
Very good. Mrs. Carter, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I do have a question. I guess this would be for Chris, what is kind of what we have in front of us versus what Andy was talking about, using chemicals and kind of the pros and cons, and if there's one that's more preferable to you?
But, so there's two ways that we can get the phosphorus out, biological treatment and chemical treatment. The chemical treatment, as Mr. Walter was saying, is a quick fix for the phosphorus issue. It's effective. We did a test run on it last year, and we were able to, depending on the amount of money you want to spend on chemicals, you could knock it all the way down to zero phosphorus discharge. But we were able to maintain 0.7 milligrams a liter, which is below the expected limit. And that's kind of where we came up with the $40,000 cost of chemicals throughout the year to do that. On the flip side, the biological side is we use a microbe, like a microscopic organism, to remove the nutrients out of the wastewater, and they require a particular environment with the amount of air that's in the wastewater solution, I'll call it. But so one of the problems we have is getting oxygen into that liquid. We have a round tank that, if you could think of like a bowl, and on the top of the bowl we have paddles that come in much like an egg mixer would work, and they push the air down into the liquid. At periods of low flow and at night when nothing's coming to the plant, sometimes the level of that tank will drop to a point that's below the paddle, so no air is getting into there, and that's the dissolved oxygen deficiency that's given us a problem with the biological treatment. The pros and cons, the biological treatment, addressing that also improves the efficiency and the operational aspects of the plant. That right now the operators are being creative to get around the deficiencies we have. The chemical treatment side is simpler. It will increase the amount of sludge that we produce because everything that we put into the liquid we have to pull back out. So the chemical has to come out with the phosphorus, and it comes out in the solids, which is more cost than hauling, land applying, storage, that kind of thing. And then there's the annual cost of the chemicals, as opposed to the microbes make more microbes, so they take care of that annual cost on their own.
And I appreciate options, but when I hear EPA and chemicals in the same, could they eventually say, we couldn't even use chemicals?
It's very difficult to predict what the EPA is going to say in the future.
Good enough. Mr. Barstow, do you have anything?
My question was kind of like what Mr. Powell's question was, so what's, it sounds like the, working on the biological solution will have, they'll not only, correct me if I'm wrong, take care of the phosphorus discharge problem, correct? But it will also, correct or help in other issues with the operation of the plant.
Absolutely, it'll be a tremendous help to the operation of the plant itself. It can adjust things all the way down to allowing us to put a thicker sludge into the press, thereby getting better solids out of the press, saving money from hauling water to the fields and landfills. It would touch every aspect of the plant.
Another question I have is on the, your answers to the questions from the Utility Commission. You have the two charts showing the fund balance lines. Those, all those charts assume no change to rate structure, correct?
So these funds are the, out of the capital improvement funds, and the rate structure would be strictly on the consumption. I don't believe there's any discussion of.
When I
changing
ran
the
those
capital
graphs,
improvement.
there was no expectation of any change of.
Okay,
of fee structure.
yeah, I was just curious to this, okay. So, the question, I have a question for Mr. Nicholson on this. So my understanding is that the loan can be taken out for up to 30 years, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
And it's a no interest loan. So it's, 30 years, same as cash, right? Okay.
Just principal, yeah.
Yeah, just principal. So what would be the advantages and disadvantages of a 30-year loan, or as opposed to it can be as low as 5 years, I believe?
It can be
Is that-
from 5 to 30 years
5 to
for
30.
payback periods.
So what would be the advantages and disadvantages? The obvious advantage on a 30-year loan is you pay a much smaller amount. 5-year loan,
Absolutely, absolutely. The city's no different than any of us as individuals, we have credit scores. So when you look at our average maturity of our debt outstanding, they look at how short-term versus long-term. So the more long-term debt you have, as you can imagine, that takes a hit to your potentially your rating, because they go, oh, you're gonna owe a lot of money for a long period of time versus, hey, all this is gonna get paid off in 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, whatever the number may be. So there's less risk, so then it could help potentially our rating. We've had conversations, 5, 10, or somewhere in between, maybe a sweet spot. It's kind of on the shorter end of the scale, but not like a 5-year. I agree. With 0% interest, it's hard to get it off real quickly because you get the use of the funds. So there is some value to that. But again, we've talked, and I think somewhere in the 5 to 10 range is probably a good number.
So I have a question for Mr. Sharp. So at what point, or how long would, let's say we do the improvements as proposed with the loan and all that, how long would those improvements last? I mean, at what point would we start making major replacements or improvements to the plant? How many years?
So the anticipation, again, it's very difficult to anticipate what regulations are gonna come down the road that we're not.
I'm not talking about
anticipating.
regulation, I'm talking about the life of this machinery and the aeration and all that. What's the useful life of that?
So the anticipation of that would be about 20 years. Now, there are parts that, there's pumps and stuff that would wear out earlier than that, but overall, you're looking at a 2-decade
Okay.
timeframe.
Which is probably frowned upon to borrow longer than something's
We don't want
lifespan.
to, continue to pay on something that's no longer giving us useful life.
Well, we don't have to have it, not only have it paying on a 30-year loan, that we're paying for the stuff that we had to tear out and bring the new stuff, then we've defeated the purpose of the note.
If we were gonna go out for bonds, bond council would not allow us to go longer than the useful life
Right,
is
exactly.
estimated.
Okay, that was my question. All right. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Barstow. Mr. Walter?
Just a quick question for Jamie, on the 10-year, and I think I'm gonna basically dovetail what Todd was talking about. It looks like at least the fund balance is sustainable at the 10-year, at your 10-year analysis for payback.
If I recall, the 10-year, the issue you're gonna have, with the 5-year, let's talk about the 5-year first. Obviously, it's trending down because you're having a bigger payment. What's gonna happen then, though, is in year 6, you'll have your last payment, you'll be done, then the fund balance will start to grow up again, right? It'll start to increase. What we don't see is years 6 through 10 on the 10-year. So, you know, my estimation would be that it would start declining after the end of this, what I'm going to show here. But then when we hit 10 years, we're all going to kind of be at the same point, whether we pay for it in 5 years, pay for it in 10 years. It's going to end up 10 years out about the same point. The question is, do you want your fund balance, you know, get paid off and have a growing fund balance, or do you want to maintain somewhat stable, declining fund balance? It gets to the same place in 10 years, basically.
And then I had a question for Chris. On the increased solid production, would you be able to, some percentage of growth, is that a 5% more solids? Is that a 20% more solids?
Oh, no, for pulling the chemicals out, it would be probably less than 5, probably 1 to 2% additional solids from what we're doing now.
And then the other question I had for you, you know, again, this is a highway PA. We all have to deal with them eventually, and sorry, Tim, that I have to bring that up. You know, if this were to be changed from 1 particle to 0.5, if they were to take it and cut it in half, the process that the upgrade to the plant is anticipating, I know it has a backup for chemical. We have chemical included in that. If you didn't have the chemical backup there, could this, do you know if Hall has evaluated this to see if that could be improved to, as they ratchet up the amount of phosphate, or reduce the amount of phosphate that you're allowed to exit, discharge, can this function, can this aeration system increase the microbes enough to overcome that? Do you know?
I do not know. I do not know if additional adjustments or upgrades could be made to this existing system to reach a lower limit.
Do you think with the chemical backup, you would probably handle it that way?
With the chemical
You'd have to
backup,
add some chemical to get it to move
that's
fast.
exactly what the plan is, yes, sir. With the chemical backup, we can hit 0 if you want to, you have to buy a lot more chemicals that way, but with the biological system and the chemical system, we would be able to hit pretty much any target that we wanted.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Hayes, do you have anything? Okay, Mr. Lee?
Yeah, Chris, when we had our meeting the other day, one of the big things for me that is a selling point, excuse me, is the impact that it has on your staff and your operations. I thought it was very intriguing that the amount of how you can spread your manpower out a little bit more to, you know, get more things done and just, like you said, expand the operation. Could you share that with council, how you explain it to us, how that would help you?
Absolutely.
Operational.
What we have now is to overcome the deficiencies of the system, we have a plant superintendent and a plant operator that spend most of their time at the wastewater plant. Plant operator, he's there all day long. Throughout the day, he takes multiple samples and does different analysis that are not required, just so that he can stay ahead of the touchy system that we have over there. So his whole day is doing nothing but trying to overcome the deficiencies of the plant. And he does a great job of it, but that's what he does all day. So this type of thing, if we could upgrade the system to run more like a well-designed system would run, he wouldn't have to spend his entire day adjusting sampling and making sure that nothing is getting out of alignment before he catches it.
Thank you. I just think that's really important. So.
And go ahead.
How old is the plant? I mean,
The original plant was 1967, but it was just the 2 lagoons that are over there.
Right.
The plant that we have now is 1989 with some upgrades that were done in 2010. But those upgrades were not done to the oxidation ditch, which is the part we're talking about now.
Doing it naturally, you said would create more product that we give to the farmers?
It was the opposite. So doing it chemically would create more sludge because we have to pull that chemical back out.
Okay.
If we do it naturally, it would increase the amount of solids we can produce out of the press, meaning we get a drier product, a better product, and it would, without paying to ship that extra water that's in our product now, that's where the cost savings would come from that.
Very good. Anything else for Chris? That's right.
Can I ask one more quick question, just to VJ.
I'm sorry.
Just a quick one. So with this proposal, we're looking at a loan for just doing the design work right now.
Right now, tonight's approval would be to do the design work, to accept the EPA loan to do the design work and get it through the EPA.
And then once the design's done, would we then,
Come back to council seeking authorization for the construction loan.
thanks.
And at that time, we'd establish the terms of what we want the loan to be for that construction portion.
I understand, okay.
Okay, any other discussion? I've read the resolution. We're ready for a roll call, please.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Mrs. Hayes she left the building.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Did she just go to the restroom or something?
Yeah, she is.
She had childcare, hands leaving, or a business trip or something, and so she's going to take care of kids.
Very good.
She will not be here for the remainder of the meeting.
Right.
Thank you for that update. Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-014, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Glaus, Pyle, Schomer, Burns, and DeHaven, Inc., the GPD Group, to perform engineering design services for the Broad Street Downtown Corridor Signal Timing Project.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow, seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? Yes.
Just, Alan, a quick question. I didn't get to listen to the street committee hearing, or committee meeting. The $15,000 is being presented, is that for everything? And what I guess I'm asking is there's two ways to time signals. You can do it via the computer itself and everybody sits for a certain time. That won't take in tripping or registration of a car, basically. The other one is through interconnect cable. Do you know if this is gonna include an interconnect cable, or is this just gonna be timing the lights?
It's already a coordinated system, the timing's just off, so this will include, traffic counts at all the intersections, minus one healthy place, that'll just be timed, auxiliary to the rest of the system, and then running the optimization, and then installing the new timing plan.
So this is basically just working on the computer, the brains of the signals themselves, not necessarily linking them.
Correct, they are already linked,
There's already interconnect.
yes.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Well, One Healthy Place, that doesn't open until, I think 8 o'clock is when or 8:30. But right now, that's on in order to get that signal to function, somebody has to trip it at One Healthy Place. So,
And that's why it'll just be auxiliary to the system, we're not gonna base anything off of it, it'll
Okay.
probably remain that way,
Okay.
the way it is.
because that would that'd make it worse.
Yes.
We'd all be stopped up, waiting for nobody, nothing.
It'll be included so that if there is somebody waiting there, it won't take necessarily precedence, the timing of the corridor will take
Okay.
precedence, and then they'll get the call.
Okay, all right.
Very good. Anything else? Kathy, roll, please.
Hayes, Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes?
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2019-015, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into and execute a renewal agreement on behalf of the city of Pataskala with Town and Country Technical Service, DBA Keytel, for the purpose of providing information technology, telecommunication, and desktop maintenance support.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
maybe we put resolution 2019-015.
I have a motion to table.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Walther. And I don't think there's any discussion, since there's two people who have tabled it, it's tabled. Is that correct, Mr. Law Director? Very good.
You get a vote on
Okay, yeah, roll call, please.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes?
Powell,
Yes.
Resolution.
Barstow,
it. Yes.
Mr. McDonald's falling asleep, and I'm trying to get him out of here, so hang on, sir, hang on. Okay, 2019-015 is tabled. Any other motions tonight, Mr. Walther?
No motion on the CAV, or
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
APD.
This is new for me. I'm gonna make a motion motion that we approve the, do you want them one at a time?
No, sir.
Okay, good. I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the applications that were submitted and reviewed this evening, and we had the public hearing for it.
Any discussion on any of the ag district information that we have given you tonight? Yes, sir.
Need a second one, Jim.
Okay, Mr. Hicken is seconding that motion. Any discussion? Thank you, Mr. Hicken. No discussion. Kathy, roll on the motion to accept ag district applications.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walther,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Any other motions tonight? All right, additional citizens' comments. Okay, we'll start with Mr. Hicken and go around the room. How are you, sir?
Fine. My thanks to Mr. Mosier. I enjoyed his presentation, and as always, I've got firsthand, I don't experience the drive all the way to Columbus as often as some people do who work there on a daily basis, but I definitely experienced that, and it's true, Patasko roads are much better when it comes to snow. There's no doubt about it. My final thing is thank you to council, but most especially to the administration, finance director, and Chris on working to educate us on the plant and possibly coming up with a way to get us access to some money that may help us. So I appreciate the work you guys put in.
Mrs. Carter?
I have nothing tonight.
Mr. Powell? Mr. Barstow?
Yeah, I want to echo Mr. Hicken's comments on the roads. Everyone knows I get to travel around central Ohio a lot, and you definitely do a very good job. Better than Newark. I drove from here to Newark on Friday morning. It was not a good situation. Newark was in terrible shape. It's pretty ironic. They opened up the downtown commercial district, and they don't plow into the parking places, so it was pretty dicey trying to find a place to park around the square. But, you know. And again, I want to thank the administration and the utility department, of course, for getting the finance, for getting together all the information about that. That was a lot of work to kind of get done quickly. And utility committee for getting that and bringing that to our attention. That was great. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay. I just have two quick things. Earlier this evening, we had on the internet, some folks were talking about somebody going house to house in the settlement with a truck that was from Missouri. They were wearing a yellow vest, had no ID. What's our policy on people that are soliciting in the town, please, Mr. Brooks?
They actually have to come and get a permit through the police department.
Okay.
And it gets approved.
Okay.
And no, he did not have one.
Okay, we nailed him?
I'm not sure. I came to the meeting, so I haven't.
Well, I didn't mean to say nailed him, I just.
We dealt with him a good part of the day, chasing him from neighborhood to neighborhood.
I didn't mean, we nailed him,
We can talk about what happened.
Thank you for that update, sir. And then I had, I had a gentleman call me about something, and I kept trying to call him back. I think it was trash related, whether they were picking up or something, doesn't really matter, but kept calling this resident back, and finally he answered the phone, and he screamed into the phone, "Stop calling me." And it was because, after I explained who I was, he said it was coming up, California number. Why would my city phone come up?
Your cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I just didn't know if that, I didn't want that happening
I
to.
don't know the
I thought it was,
Yeah, I don't know. I think you go to the dealer and talk to somebody who works in that. I don't know why they would do
it was a city phone, I just wondered if we.
that. We didn't change anything to disguise anybody's numbers or anything. Yeah, why it would, I don't know.
Mr. Walther?
A couple different things. First, I wanted to thank BJ and Chief Brooks. There were some issues out on Dixon with some construction operations that were happening that were making a real mess of things. I think I called BJ in kind of a huff, but anyhow, it got taken care of. It has been taken care of, it seems, so I appreciate that. Second item, I'm gonna have a little bit different take, I guess, driving around in the snow and salt, or snow and ice events. You know, I think the question that came to my mind is, are we doing too much now? I'm gonna put it out there, because it is so dramatically better than everybody else. And so, I mean, I think everybody likes that, and I'm joking with you, but it is so dramatically different than anywhere else you go, and I travel quite a bit in central Ohio, so, you know, it's fantastic compared to what it used to be very few years ago.
I have directed Alan to cut back on it because I'm tired of hearing all the. No, I'm kidding. They're doing a tremendous job, and you're right, Andy. I remember the days of, I would hate when it would snow, phone would ring off the hook, and the city would be shut down, so we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, the safety factor alone, you know, not knowing what could have happened on that viaduct or anywhere with snow and ice. You know, I mean, we're never gonna know, but to have it perfect, I can't say enough.
Yeah,
Mr.
one
Yes.
more thing. I just wanted to say one last thing. I appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers. It meant a world to me to hear from you guys and to see you guys. So appreciate that greatly.
I know I was telling Andy that it certainly didn't seem like a funeral home atmosphere when I walked in. His mom was very well loved, and obviously your family and your children and the grandchildren and everybody. It was like a cheerleading event. I mean, it was just, there was so much laughter and excitement.
It was very busy. I think I talked to a couple hundred people.
It was a good funeral, if you can call a funeral good,
Yeah.
so I'm
That's
sure
what we
she's
do. Yes.
very proud of you. Mr. Lee, take us home, dude.
Yeah, two things real quick. Kathy, I need to schedule Buildings and Grounds. Is the 18th available of
March, okay.
March? Because it looks like the 4th, I'm on duty at work. I won't be at the 4th. Unless something comes up and we meet here. We meet on the 18th of March, correct?
I believe, isn't that a holiday?
4th and the 18th are our meetings.
The 19th we meet in March.
The 18th of February is a holiday. He's talking
Not March.
18th of March.
All right.
President, hang on just a second.
Yeah.
President's Day is,
18th. Are we meeting the 18th or the 19th?
President's Day is the 18th. Are we closed on the 18th?
We are closed on the 18th. The next council meeting is February 19th.
Okay.
I'm saying that
Tuesday the
He's
19th.
talking March 18th for
the
Buildings
March
and Grounds.
4th meeting, I'm on duty at work, so I can't.
March 18th.
So I'm looking at March 18th for Buildings and Grounds, if it's available.
March 18th.
Yeah. And I'll talk, I believe that's Tim and Suzanne. I'll and get you an agenda. So, before I close it down, I warned everybody at the beginning of the year that I was gonna be on a pretty big kick for our PD, and I'm disappointed to hear that we're losing 4 potentially, so, I'm glad to hear that everybody is wanting to hear what they have to say, because they deserve better than that, so. Motion to adjourn?
Got a motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Barstow. Discussion and roll.
Carter? Yes. Walter?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Barstow?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, sir. Can't have any.
See you all, have a good week.
Chairs down, people.
Yeah.